Welcome to MGoRadio 7.5. We are leading into the Nebraska game. We are charging ahead.
Scott Frost Day! Scott Frost Day! It's Scott Frost
Day. Someone's going to bring up his mom and want to hit her with a shovel.
I mean,
for reasons I don't know. I can't believe Sam didn't bring that up on WTK. We didn't talk about Scott Frost's mom at all.
Not once. Not once.
I mean, like Sam Christmas, where it's like, now I get to talk about Scott Frost's mom.
Are you wearing a Scott Frost mom shirt? Is that what you're showing us?
No, it's a sloth shirt.
Okay.
I have sloths. It's the deadliest.
You are a sloth because you're not, because like we had a whole week and we didn't talk about Scott Frost's mom. Now we are, I guess.
Well, one thing we could talk about is our sponsors.
Yes, MGoRadio is sponsored by Underground Printing. UGP has 3 retail locations in Ann Arbor, offer thousands of University of Michigan athletic products. Check out ugpmichiganapparel.com. We also want to thank our associate sponsors, Peak Wealth Management, HomeSure Lending, Ann Arbor Elder Law, Michigan Law Grad, Human Element, the Phil Klein Insurance Group, Prentice 4M, and SignalWire, which we are using right now.
All right, so the Nebraska Cornhuskers come to town with the 2-3 record, I believe, and
misleading.
So you look at that, and you look at a loss to Illinois, and you're like, oh, this should be a pushover. And then you look a little deeper, and it's like, well, they've played pretty well, and then they've spent large portions of the year just shooting themselves in the foot with the full clip. So if they stop doing that, that's a team that could give you some troubles.
Yeah. First thing to note, they are 3-3,
right?
Not 2-3. But yeah, it was funny because I used the Northwestern tape for their offense because they shuffled their offensive line, and the first thing you learn in watching that is just like, wow, Northwestern's bad. So it took a little bit of time to kind of parse beyond that, but they have a decent offense. They have a pretty solid defense. They should be a lot better in the record column than they are. They just find ways to lose games.
Well, let's talk about their offense first. It's a Scott Frost production, so there are going to be 3 or 4 plays that they pull out during this game, and you're going to be like, oh, that's cool. I wish we could do that. And they use Taylor Martinez. He's their leading rusher. Once you take out sacks, he's got about 500 rushing yards at 8.3 a clip. And he's actually done fairly well against the better defenses on their schedule once you get rid of the sacks. So this is a full-on read offense where everything is live, and there's often a pitch attached to a quarterback keep or some sort of frippery. So they're not just running basic zone read stuff. They're running sort of a modern version of the classic Nebraska offense. Yeah. And so, I appreciate that about Scott Frost because it's always wrong when Nebraska is running an offense where the quarterback never pitches the ball. I just won't accept that. That's not something I find acceptable. And so this is going to be a challenge for Michigan in a couple ways. One, they haven't actually seen a quarterback as effective as Taylor Martinez yet this year. And not Taylor. Damn it! I knew it.
I knew it. I was like waiting for the moment, and you hit it like in the first segment.
Adrian Martinez.
There he is.
I said it's completely unfair that people keep making that mistake.
Everyone does it, and there's such different not super different quarterbacks, but like he doesn't have dinosaur arms. Does Adrian? Adrian is like
So Adrian Martinez is passing for almost 10 yards an attempt this year. He's hitting his Roy Roundtree-esque slot receiver deep a ton. That guy's averaging 21 yards a carry, and they get to do that because he's so good in the read game that if you're not activating your safeties to deal with the Nebraska run game, you're going to be in trouble. So, from one perspective, that's actually probably good news for Michigan, because I think they'd probably be more comfortable than most just sticking Dax Hill on the slot and letting that one-on-one battle go the way it's going to go, notwithstanding the two like improbable Mertz daggers at the end of the first half last year.
Last week.
Last week.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a quarterback who's completing 70% of his passes and is racking up yards, and I don't know if Michigan has actually faced a functional quarterback yet this year.
No, and people were kind of I got ripped on, I think, in one of the comments in Alex Drain's article when he was like deciding who the best quarterbacks were in the Big Ten, because I was like, Taylor Martinez is like not the best quarterback.
You did it.
I did it too. I did it too. Alex, you're the only one left, man. You can't make this mistake. Adrian Martinez.
Just don't use his first name.
Martinez. Just they're gonna have another Martinez too. It's just gonna drive us nuts. He is. I said he's fine. The problem with him is that if you get him throwing off his back foot, his accuracy just disappears. It kind of reminds me of Denard. Like if as long as you pressure him, the accuracy is not there. If you don't, I mean, he can throw some like dead on balls, and it's very imperative to kind of condense the middle of the line, because like the tackles are terrible, and he's going to get the ball out before your ends really get there. But if the nose tackles and defensive tackles can get up the field and kind of get him leaving the pocket, trying to move, that's where you can really mess him up. And that's why they're so bad in like third and long this year, because like people will get after him, and then he's got to make the first throw.
Yeah, so this is very much a team that needs to stay on schedule. As Alex, excuse me, as Alex pointed out, they're playing a true freshman at left tackle right now and a redshirt freshman at right tackle.
And they had to do that because the other guy was getting caved in all the time.
Right, and there's just no way that either one of those guys is going to be able to cope with Aiden Hutchinson. So what can you do to deal with Aiden Hutchinson? Well, you can option him off in the ground game, which is a little scary from Michigan's point of view, because there's not much you can do about that. And then you can run play action. But if you get off schedule and you get into passing down, I think that's going to be the end of Nebraska drives. So it's sort of like playing a service academy in a way where, I mean, they're not going to be quite as dependent on being in third and short, but if I can't see passing downs going Nebraska's way more than a few times. Now, one thing that I think could be an issue is you have Ojabo, who's really just a speed rusher at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But he just wants to go upfield, and he kind of has Chase Winovich disease, where if he can't get around the corner, he just keeps going. So there are going to be opportunities for Martinez to break the pocket and either complete a pass or a scramble, because Michigan's defensive tackles don't get a whole lot of push. So that gap between the ends and the tackles, I think, could be a source of frustration.
Yeah, I was hoping this might be a game to like throw some gambles out there, bring the safeties down a couple times, and just see if you can make him throw or get him into long distances, like create a couple. It's similar to Army, although they don't go up the middle like Army for 3 yards every time, but they're just going to pressure you every single play and try to stay on schedule, like second half Rutgers. And one of the reasons that I thought Michigan was doing so well against Wisconsin is they let us change like every single down. So like Jenkins could go all out, and then you pull that guy, and then another tackle comes in. I don't know if you can do that against Nebraska. They are going to keep you on the field, and they're going to push you down. And it's like the longer the drives go, like the more dangerous they get, and the shorter the games get. And I think that's what they did to Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma really only had 6 drives in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So they had 6 drives. They got up 23-9, and the next time they touched the ball, there were 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they were just trying to burn clock.
Yeah.
So, and they mostly successfully did that. So, when Alex did the Michigan State game, he pointed out that their middle linebacker was able to track down Kenneth Walker on the edge a couple of times. Didn't do so hot against Eric Gray. If you remember Eric Gray, this little scat back who was formerly a Michigan commit, went to Tennessee, and now is transferred to Oklahoma. And so I'll be interested to see if Michigan tries to get either Corum or Henning out in space and see if that guy can keep up. Because there seemed to be a pretty big gap in the effectiveness of running outside between Michigan State and Oklahoma. And the other thing that Alex really caught was the fact that, sorry, we were talking about the offense, and now we accidentally switched to the other side of the ball. Shouldn't have done that. Apologize profusely. So Nebraska does have a couple issues at running back where they don't really seem to have a guy who's taken hold of the job. The 245-pound walk-on who was
who ran all around Northwestern. So like
it's kind of a funny story, but like I can't see him being effective against not Northwestern.
I would think not, but you think he's gonna get carries because the dude just shredded an opponent. But like if you watch some of the clips, like not blazing speed to me. I mean, it was really Northwestern taking bad angles and also being about as unathletic.
Yeah. And he has a funny name. Was it Yans or something?
Yeah, Jaquez Yant.
Yant. So, yeah, that and then like the whole situation with their tackles, like they had a giant. I think the guy was like 6'9", 400 or something like that. And that was the guy they were playing before at left tackle, before they moved him out for the true freshman. And the redshirt freshman was like a top 50 overall recruit. And he has, I think, the lowest pass protection rating in all of PFF. And like there's a lot of PFF you can just like flat out ignore. But the pass rush rating is pretty much, did he give up a pass rush or not, divided by plays. And that's kind of alarming.
Yeah, and their left guard is also on his second start. So a lot of inexperience across the line. There's talent, but also a lot of inexperience. Like those tackles could be really good in like 3 years, but probably not tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's going to affect them in the ground game as well. It's just going to be difficult for them, I think, to sustain drives. They could hit some big plays because their offense is designed to do that because they have a lot of sort of innovative looks. So I think that they might get some explosives, but this defense has been really good at preventing those. So,
and I mean, they've been using Colson a lot more, and this might be the Colson game, because I mean, if they're going to be testing us with speed to the edge and reading Hutchinson to get rid of him, the next guy who can make a play is going to be Colson. So, I mean, the linebackers didn't have very much to do against Wisconsin, and I think this is the exact opposite, that they're going to be testing the linebackers, and we're going to have at least 2 of them on the field most plays.
All right. Well, that's, I think, the long and the short of the Husker offense. Let's take a break, come back, and then actually talk about the defense when we're supposed to.
Want the perfect game day outfit? Underground Printing has unique, great-fitting U of M apparel and officially licensed apparel from legendary Michigan names like Woodson, Howard, Ufer, and more. UGP also specializes in custom printed apparel and promotional items for groups, events, and businesses. Whether you need 1 shirt as a gift or 1,000 shirts for a charity walk, Underground can customize almost anything for groups large or small. To learn more, visit Underground Printing at one of our 3 convenient locations around Ann Arbor or online at undergroundshirts.com. It's painless. It's online. It's group ordering made easy for your next custom printed apparel order. Pogo from Underground Printing will save you time and hassle. Whether you're selling shirts for a fundraiser, organizing a large event, trying to collect sizes and payments for a family reunion, or, ordering a whole bunch of shirts with your Kickstarter, Underground Printing is here to help. Save time and hassle every step of the way with their easy-to-use site. No more guessing what to order, chasing people down to pay, wasting time trying to sort out the order. At set it up, and you can just sit back and relax. They'll even take care of individual shipping. To learn more about Pogo, visit them at any of their convenient locations or at pogo.undergroundshirts.com.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, founder and president at Peak Wealth Management. We have a lot in common. We both went to Michigan, we're both huge fans, but I'm concerned about how much time you're spending on Michigan football recruiting. This could be time spent with me poring over your cash flow and Roth conversion strategy. How are these Roth conversions going to get done with you spending all your time and energy on MGoBlog looking at the next 5-star recruits? Hey, all kidding aside, if you're addicted to MGoBlog and you want to outsource some of your financial planning to an expert, consider us, peakwm.com/MGoBlog. At Peak, we work with people useful in a variety of situations. Some of our clients are young professionals looking to optimize their savings and investments. For young people, time is the key. Some of our clients are super affluent trying to figure out when they can retire. Some are high net worth retirees looking for a second opinion on how their money's working for them. Get your second opinion at peakwm.com/mgoblog.
Peak Wealth Management.
Retire with confidence.
During these challenging times, it is important to have a Michigan man in your corner. If you or someone in your life has questions, concerns, or just want to discuss your legal rights, give attorney Jonathan Paul a call at 248-924-9458 or visit his website, michiganlawgrad.com. John asks you all to be safe. We're going to get through this together, and as always, go blue.
Early to rise makes a man happy, wealthy and wise. A standard for the rack of wood and lumber, given a slip to my secret number. How fast can you work? Perform under pressure, just writing down.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 7.5, and we're here to talk about the Nebraska defense now.
It's so boring when you get that right, by the way. Did you actually know the numbers? This responsible version?
We have to talk about a controversy unnecessarily generated by someone on this very podcast.
I stand by it! I stand by it!
Cyan circle on Cade McNamara in the latest, and poor Alex had to post this.
Like they're ripping into him.
On in the comments. It's not even on your post.
It says by Seth on the graphic. If you look in the corner, it says by Seth.
You can't expect people to make that distinction.
Ace used to write like Seth's diagram right above it so that people would, not blame him for this.
Right. But you put a cyan
around
circle
Michigan's starting quarterback.
Cade McNamara. What like even if that you felt that was deserved, why would you just do that?
Because
This
it
feels like asking for trouble.
I will get into it when we get into the UFR segment, which is the next segment here. But
all right, I'm just
we
gonna say that McNamara is completing 62% of his passes for 9 yards an attempt with 5 touchdowns and no interceptions.
No interceptions and no there's
going on in the ground game.
It is not
But
a you suck. Cyan border does not mean you suck. I just want everyone to understand that. It means trouble spot.
No, that's what it means.
Trouble
That's what it's always mean. It's always meant. I can't even speak English anymore. It means you suck.
It does not mean he sucks. It means that there are issues because of who he is and what his limitations and liabilities are.
Everybody else thinks it means you suck. So you can use it however you want.
And I gave it to him for the first time last week, and I don't leave that for 1 week and then be like, oh, you had a good game against Wisconsin, flip, right? Like he can have a good game against Nebraska, and then it will be gone. Especially if he makes his reads. But we'll get to that. Anyway,
you're just throwing grenades. They're hitting poor Alex. It's just like he's Canadian now. He doesn't know how to deal with this stuff anymore.
It was just very alarming how many comments there were very quickly, and then I scroll down, and the top one is like, "I stopped reading as soon as I saw the Cyan on Cade McNamara."
See, you're preventing people from reading this post, this painstaking, meticulous post with your total fire-starting nonsense.
And then they're mad because Vastarda still has a star, and because Graham Mertz didn't have a circle, which he would have one now, but he's not.
Quit making people mad.
Anyway, we can do Nebraska's defense, right? They have to play.
All
somebody.
right. Well, let's talk about the Husker defense.
Yeah. What's Ben's last name? Did Style? Still?
I don't know.
Still? I was hoping somebody picked that up. I still haven't figured it out.
Okay, why don't we actually talk about the defense instead of the guy's last name?
But
yeah, so I mean
they
run sort of a 3-4, but not really. They have 3 defensive tackles with a nose tackle and sort of like Michigan, but they're not all out there at the same time. The OLBs are defensive ends like Michigan, but they're not all out there at the same time, and they still have a hybrid space player. So there's a lot going on. Two traditional inside linebackers, Reimer was the guy I liked in the MSU game. Some of his other games, I guess, have not been as strong, but I thought he had a good performance in that one. And
He's
Henrich is the
right?
other.
Or is Henrich the walk? No, yeah, Henrich is the top 50 player, and then Reimer is the walk-on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got a bad injury in the spring to that position that had Husker fans worried. But those two guys have been fine overall. Jojo Doman is the hybrid space player, which they have refused to give a title to, which I hate. Got to give it a fun name. It's not Viper, not Husky. It's just hybrid space player.
That used to be a segment in faux film when I was running. I'd be like, what do they call the hybrid this week? And
yeah, it's just hybrid.
Hybrid outside linebacker versus outside linebacker. Yeah.
And Doman is much more of a DB than a linebacker. I mean, he's shaped like a DB. He lines up as a DB much more frequently, but he does play in the box sometimes and rushes and does some different things. And then they have Garrett Nelson is like the pass rushing outside linebacker, which is really a DE. He gets used quite a bit, and sometimes they bring a second one on, and Caleb Tanner. So there's a lot of different things they can throw at you with the front seven. And then the secondary is pretty consistent. 2 corners, 2 safeties, and the 5th DB is Doman when they use him. So that's the general outlook. But there's a lot of different things they can present, and they do rush quite a bit. They rush 6 and 7 in some cases every so often, so you have to be ready for that. And Garrett Nelson, the pass rusher, has a really good PFF score, and I thought he had one drive in particular against MSU where he had basically 3 pressures in a row and killed a drive. So watch out for him.
Yeah, one thing that you caught is that the Nebraska defensive line seemed to win pretty decisively against Michigan State's offensive line, which could be meaningful since Michigan State's been running the ball really well. And I was always kind of skeptical that they could turn that offensive line around as quickly as they seem to have. And so it felt like a lot of their success there was Walker, and then Walker couldn't really do much because they were getting whooped.
Yeah, like what you were actually in the middle of the sentence of Garrett Nelson. I kind of switched feelings on as you described it, because you're like, Garrett Nelson was really whipping Michigan State left tackle Luke Campbell, who is like legendary in these posts for like just being a complete turnstile. And I mean, granted, the guy's another year older, but like he was a 4th year or a 5th year when he was already getting super Cyan. And like,
Garrett Nelson too absolutely murdered a Northwestern left tackle last week, which I dropped in the post. He just clowns the left tackle. He sacks the quarterback, forces a fumble, and then does an air guitar celebration. So he's had a couple of good weeks in a row, and he's an important part of how they want to get pressure on the quarterback.
And I did want to point out, too, that the outside linebackers, less so than the last time we played them, but still true, I think, that they're not defensive end likes. You don't mention Garrett Nelson, but he's 245, and he's the biggest one. The other one is in the 220s. Jojo, he's 230, but like you said, he's a hybrid. So, and then the other guys, I think that they rotate in sometimes, are also kind of small, and that's just been an Eric Chinander thing. Like what was UCF.
Yeah.
When he was there, they always had like really small guys. Like they were using basically safeties as their outside linebackers, and that's just always been his thing. They want a lot of speed out there, and I mean Michigan's offense likes to bring a guy across and smack into the end. So I'm wondering if that might play into our strengths there.
Yeah, I'm curious how it's gonna pan out. The only kind of comparable that we've seen in terms of offensive style is really Michigan State, unless you want to count Illinois, and I think that's a stretch. And they did. I mean, they completely shut Michigan State down in the second half, so it's going to be it's going to be.
I mean, they shut him down pretty much the whole game. I mean, MSU, got the 3 points in OT. They got 7 on a punt return, and their really other big play was like that flea flicker. Like Michigan State had to go deep into the bag of tricks to get any traction in this one. And the second half was a total whipping. I mean, it was 5 3-and-outs until overtime.
Yeah, so this is going to be, I think, a real test. And you look at what Nebraska's been able to do today, and they're probably the best team Michigan has played by some distance, despite their record.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, we should probably bring up their special teams, though.
Speaking of shooting themselves in the foot,
we talked about Wisconsin's special teams not being very good, and Nebraska's have just been so terrible. They're 128th of 130 teams in the FEI rankings for special teams, which are my preferred rankings, and they do nothing well. The only thing that they're even okay at is kick the ball off. Everything else is a disaster. They're averaging 15 yards a kickoff return. I don't know how that's possible.
Oh, is that? Oh, that's Ramir Johnson doing the kickoff return. So their starting running back is doing the kickoff return, which I know we do the same thing.
He's getting 15 yards a return, and their punter did the thing with the punt into the wrong guy. And
well, guess who their new punt returner is? It's Oliver Martin.
Well,
did you even know Oliver Martin was in Nebraska? Like
I did.
You kind of have to track him. Yeah, he's a walk-on there.
Yeah, their punter has had the tale of 2 weeks in the last 2 weeks, because against MSU there was both the disastrous punt return TD and also a 7-yard punt. And then last week against Northwestern, he had an 84-yard punt that landed at the 35 and rolled to the goal line. So it's really a jack in the box with him. And the weird thing with their kicking game is that Connor Culp was the Big Ten kicker of the year last year. And then he missed an extra point against Illinois, and I think missed a couple other field goals in that one. So, it shouldn't have been this bad, but it really is bad. And, there will be several shots of Scott Frost probably looking bewildered on the sideline after special teams happen on Saturday.
I mean, that's the concern, is that, these events are so weird that, can you count on them continuing to happen? But, I mean, they're, as you said, 6 games into their schedule, and they are continuing to happen.
And they've happened throughout Frost's tenure. This just keeps happening to Nebraska. And at some point, it stops being random and just who you are. And I think that's the worry for their program, is that, the players have internalized it.
All right. Well, got predictions, guys?
What did I say? What was it, 35-15 or something? Or 30-15 or 31-15. I think that's what I said on the last podcast. I think Michigan's going to score. I think Michigan's going to be able to run on these guys. This is really what I feel. Reminds me a little bit of Washington. They sit their safeties back and don't really trust them to come down. And if they want to come down, hopefully Michigan will punish them there. But I think that this is not the run defense that they faced last week, and I think that we've been hiding behind the fact, or the run defense has been hiding behind, Rutgers came down and brought their safeties and just did everything to fight the running game, and Michigan did not respond. And then Wisconsin's just really good. So this is going to be a little bit of a break, I hope.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break, come back, and figure out what.
Wait. Alex gets to guess.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
24-14, Michigan.
I dialed mine back after doing the preview to 25-20, Michigan. All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and find out what Seth learned in UFR.
At Peak Wealth, we believe we can help you retire with confidence. It's Nick Hopwood, certified financial planner from
Peak Wealth Management
in Plymouth. I graduated from Michigan in 2001 with an econ degree and founded Peak Wealth Management in 2014. And now we have over $240 million of assets under management. As a freshman in 97, winning the national championship in football and hockey didn't get any better than that. Both my wife and I lived in Bursley that year, and it's crazy because we never actually met while living in the same dorm. Probably because she had a car and I had to ride the bus. But we named our dog Bursley anyway, and he's on the payroll here at Peak Wealth Management. At Peak, we're fee-based. We're your fiduciary, which means everything we we recommend is always in your best interest. We partner with leading institutional money managers, focus on low fees, and make sure every client has a financial plan covering retirement, college, tax, estate, insurance, and cash flow. Simply put, we are
Peak Wealth Management.
your comprehensive financial coach. Book your second opinion at peakwm.com/mgoblog.
Peak Wealth Management.
Retire with confidence.
The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough made possible by developments in communications.
Arthur C. Clarke's 1964 vision is now reality with SignalWire, a cloud platform that enables developers to build the applications that will reshape the future of communications.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be.
You can add cutting-edge, real-time video and audio to any product, website, or application with APIs and SDKs for developers of all skill sets. SignalWire is optimized for high-quality and low-latency communication functionality for video, voice, and text messaging capabilities.
Almost any skill could be made independent of distance. Men will no longer commute. They will communicate.
See for yourself at SignalWire.com. Use code 2021 and receive $25 in developer credit. Go to SignalWire.com.
SignalWire Communications OGs, original geeks of programmable communication.
Passion for e-commerce. Sell stuff online. Security. Performance. Conversion. Beautiful user experiences. Belle experience utilisateur. Monthly marketing. PPC SEO. Make your user a customer. Conversion. Eau de Parfum for online retailers. Love your website. Let Human Element show you how. Available at human-element.com and fine department stores, not fine department stores.
In southeastern Michigan, the yearly cost for a nursing home averages
approximately $100,000.
It doesn't have to, though. Reed McCarthy founded Ann Arbor Elder Law after handling a tricky situation for his own family. Years of experience later, his boutique firm works with clients across southeast Michigan, dealing with Medicaid planning, long-term care, and tax, disability, and family law, not to mention family dynamics. If you have a family member who may need that level of care, or if you're ready to start your own estate plan, Reed can give you a plan for the future. Visit AnnArborElderLaw.com or call 734-945-9693. That's 734-945-9693.
If you ever wanna dance, I would always let you go. With little hesitance and moral senses, I should know. I'll be patient, I'll be kind, to provide peace of mind.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 7.5. Now we have to talk about UFR things.
Well, I got an
first.
ad. Yeah. First. But
We
first.
must get paid.
Well, actually, this is also a service that is being provided to us because we are recording right now or coming to you live via SignalWire. SignalWire is real-time video technology, allows you to create interactive video experiences. Cities that don't have Ann Arbor politics have been using it for virtual town halls. Musicians have been using it for fully interactive virtual concerts. I also want to point out that last week when we were having our issues, two of the founders and then the entire dev team was working on it in the middle of our podcast to get us back up again, and it wasn't even their fault. So they are MGO blog fans, and they are very interested in helping you if you want to start using their system. It's way better than Zoom. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I mean, this is your segment, right? So, I
have to go ahead.
What happened with your breakdown? What is the verdict of the great Cade/JJ war?
Well, JJ threw one pass, so I'm not verdicting JJ at all.
What did you see from Cade McNamara's performance? We talked about it on the previous podcast. After you've gone over it, what did you take?
Yeah, I mean, he was better as a passer than I thought. Until Sam, after I did the whole thing, showed us a whole bunch of pictures of wide open guys that he wasn't throwing to downfield, which it's really hard to gauge that because Fox does not show you the passing game. So, he would have throws that landed at the foot of Wilson, and we'd be like, okay, I guess that was just a a bad throw or the receiver didn't make the same move. And what happened was that there actually was a receiver open on the other side, and he threw it to the wrong guy. And apparently that's been happening a lot more than even I can see. So when I charted him, I got like a 71% downfield success rating, which is good. The thing that he does, and the reason why he deserves to be the starter, and we'll get into the zone read game in a second, but like he does not take sacks. And there were 3 times when most quarterbacks, I think, would have gone down, that he wiggled out of there and created a positive play. One of them was the Corum play. And then another time was when he broke the pocket, and if he'd been any faster, he would have gotten the first down. So, I mean, that is an important thing. He does not take sacks. He does not throw interceptions. And that, I think, in the game like this, where Michigan really thought they were going to be in a dogfight until Graham Mertz went down, I thought was underrated in importance. The reason I put a science circle on him is he is a drag on the running game. They want to run zone split zone, right? Like that's their play. And more than even I remembered, he screwed up reads, including an RPO. And there was even at one point where like Eric Gall is on the line, he can't move, but he's like, this guy right here, you got to read this guy, because like the dude was already showing that he was going to blast in. And when a defense can take away your edge, when they can just crash in on your edge like that, you cannot run split zone, because they're just going to be coming in. You basically have a free guy coming in and knocking out your crosser and knocking out the number one spot you want to run that play. And defenses can get away with that because we will not read that backside end. We run the counters. So, I mean, find something else or teach him how to read those. But our base play doesn't work because the defense knows that they can do that. Everything else was just tight ends getting beat by Wisconsin linebackers who are better than them, and there's nothing they could really do about that.
All right.
Sorry, that was like several minutes of me talking there, but I mean, do you disagree about any of that? Is that not worth a science circle?
I just question about how much of this goes back to Cade, because as you mentioned, Michigan has not really had a quarterback who's been any good at this under Harbaugh, and I just wonder if, like, that Nebraska reps it every day, and it's the heart of their offense. And for Michigan, it's just like a thing that they kind of half-ass, it feels like. So how much of that would change if they went to McCarthy or whatever? But yeah, I have my doubts that we're ever going to like look at Michigan's quarterback and be like, yep, this guy does all the zone read stuff really well. So
you don't have to be really good at it. If they could get him up to D-, then it'd be a very different situation. Like the way that they're coming in and the reads that he's missing are really bad. And then, they brought in McCarthy in the very first play as a zone read. But, I mean, Wisconsin had that scouted. They're like, oh, Michigan brings in their backup quarterback. They're going to run zone read because they only practice zone read with their backup for some reason. So they are using practice time to teach McCarthy how to zone read. And McCarthy comes in and he makes the correct read, but Wisconsin has an extra guy flying down, and Schoonmaker is just wide open. And it's that was your chance. Like, you knew that Wisconsin was going to do this. You knew that they were going to come after the zone read the second you put your backup quarterback in, because Michigan's well scouted. And then there was the moment there where you could have thrown it to Schoonmaker or just had like a pop pass. Michigan does not have any of that in their offense. They don't think about it. And I think you're right. They are worse than half-assing it. And it's only a problem because they want split zone to be their base play. So I don't know if they change the base play. They can go back to the power stuff they were doing before, or just practice a certain number of reads. But it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be like super complicated. It's very easy reads that Cade is missing, and you can't run that play without a read.
Do you think he's missing the reads, or he just refuses to keep it because he's Miguel Cabrera level slow?
Yes and yes and yes. I mean, all the answers. The thing is, and this goes back to why I signed him. It doesn't matter, right? Like whether it's the coaches not coaching it, whether it's him getting out there after being coached and not making the reads, it doesn't matter because it's affecting the offense. It just comes down to that. And the RPO has nothing to do with his speed, right? Like, if there's an RPO read, he's just got to keep it and throw it. And missing that read was like the tipping point for me when I was like, this guy is really holding back the running game right now because teams can tee off on us. I don't want to make that the number one thing, because like that was not the number one thing going on here. That was 8 plays involved in this game that also are messing up their split zone. And like we talked about this before, right? Like they're lining up somebody inside and slanting him inside of Ryan Hayes, and Hayes is supposed to make that block. There's no way to make that block. And like everyone else is doing fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the it is where it is location right now. Opinions on the offensive line's performance against what looked like one of the best defensive fronts in the nation?
We were moving their nose tackle a lot. We were moving their other tackles pretty often. I mean, other than their linebackers, things were happening. Like Stuber was moving guys. There were a lot of like little +5s for him by comboing with whoever was at right guard. Normally it's Inter, but sometimes Filianga was in there. I mean, they can move guys. It's hard because my grading, and I got this from you, it grades what happened on the play. So there are things that I see on the play like, Stuber just, doubled down to a guy and got to the linebacker. It doesn't matter because that play got swallowed in the back when somebody slants it in. So like those points aren't really in there, or it gets a 0.5 if it was nice and I wanted to include it. But I mean, that's kind of a positive thing too. Like they moved, especially, Keanu Benton. We always thought that guy was pretty good, that nose guard for Wisconsin, and they were moving him with regularity. Getting down to the linebackers, those are great linebackers. Anything that was going against them was just not going to happen, right? Like Stuber is not going to have the athleticism to get out and lock in Jack Sanborn. He, probably will do better against guys who are not Jack Sanborn or Leo Chenal.
On the other side of the ball, Michigan went up against a team that was kind of broken on offense, but every game is an opportunity for Michigan to prove that its defensive tackles are functional. How did they do?
Awesome. We are underrating this performance. First 4 drives, I think I mentioned this on WTK. In the first 4 drives, the most positive play that Wisconsin had statistically was when they took the delay of game. Like there was nothing, and there were a lot of points that I gave out in those plays where a guy didn't even get to do something because even though he'd like beaten his Mozzie Smith is in the backfield in a heartbeat. He's about to terrorize the quarterback, but the quarterback has already got Ojabo and Hutchinson on him. Like, it was a thrashing. And I know that this is not a vintage Wisconsin line, but there's not a vintage Wisconsin line level where you're like, okay, these guys can still run block some. They have a bad pass protection at left tackle. Like, those are things we knew. And then I think their center, poked his eye and couldn't go. So, they had to go back to Caden Lyles. Which was unfortunate for them, but Lyles was a star on our charts last year, and he was a great player last year, and I was surprised he got passed, and he got passed because they have so many offensive line guys, and there's a 5-star from Michigan who's that they wanted to use this year, and he's behind that left tackle, so Wisconsin has offensive linemen to throw at us, and they were big dudes, and they know how to run block. They're not as good as some past Wisconsin lines, but I mean, this was a hand blasting. And I think the reason was because they change every play. So Michigan was able to change out their tackles every play, and we did a lot of rotation. So Hinton was only in there half the time. Smith was only in there half the time. There was a lot of plays, like Jeter got a pretty high score in this one. Spate got in there a whole bunch. Not Wilton. So the fact they were rotating in, I think that changes things, because Jenkins can come in, give you just a monster play, and then go back out again, and no one was getting tired, and that's why I'm a little nervous that we can't repeat this performance, because it was a little wonky, right? They had 5 defensive linemen out there and 1 linebacker. The linemen were not letting anything through. every time they tried to run away from Hutchinson because Hutchinson was destroying them, it was just, a comprehensive dominance. And then there were two drives, like the drive where Mertz just can't miss, right, which is 20 seconds long. And then the other drive was Michigan playing off coverage.
Yeah. There wasn't really a whole lot of like Mertz doing anything downfield, so like there's really nothing to say about the secondary. I mean,
we saw
Dax
Turner
Hill had kind of an eventful day. We saw Turner, comment on him, but like we're like 5 games into the season. I still feel like we know nothing about the cornerbacks.
And that might stay true until, the final, the final flip. I mean, no, Penn State's got it because Penn State's got Jahan Dotson. So we're going to see. I mean, we might have to, we'll use Dax Hill against him there, but they'll move him around and get him against Gray, and we'll see. Michigan still has a lot less luck than you expect them to on balls that are contested, and at one point, like Alex said, like even if it's weird, it might just be who you are. So, I mean, that happened to Dax Hill twice, and then he had 2 big breakups later. So I'm not really putting that on him. We saw it again with Green. Turner was playing off, so the off coverage is not just a Green problem or a Turner problem. And then Turner is still very handsy. Like, Wisconsin receivers are trained to try to draw the flag, and I thought one time in particular, the guy knew he wasn't going to had any chance to catch the pass. He slows up. He's not really fighting, and then at the end, he tries to wave his arms around and draw a flag. And Turner's going to get called on that when it's not just a Wisconsin receiver who's known for doing this for 6 years.
All right. David Ojabo had 2.5 sacks, kind of a breakout performance. A little bit of a one-note breakout performance against guys who don't really seem to be very good. But what was your impression of his game?
I mean, I always count the yards that they turn, right? Because if you got a guy who you're turning at 9 yards and somebody else kind of forced the sack or forced the quarterback backwards, that's different to me than if you're around the guy at 6 or 7 yards. And he was doing that with regularity. So those are the kind of things that those are Uche things where it doesn't really matter who you're going against. If you can bend like that and get that low and have that kind of body control. And then the fumble was a lot cooler than I thought it was originally. I thought they got there and Chase Wolf was just kind of holding it like a breadbasket. He comes in, we're on video, so I'm going to try to show a little bit, but he comes in waving his arm, this is the arm I'm going to sack you with. I'm going to sack you with this. And then very sneakily just uses the other one to punch it out. And I thought that was on purpose. I thought that, caveat that tackle was not very good. Hutchinson was way more impressive. He was doing that against double teams. He was doing it against both tackles. But I don't want to discount what Ojabo was doing as a pass rusher because that looks repeatable to me.
All right. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we move on?
It was just that 5-1-5 is cool. I mean, this is a Ravens thing that we saw a couple times, but never as a base before. So the 5-1-5 nickel is really a 5-1-5 nickel, and you could really see how it works. Ian Boyd talked about how Michigan kind of just sets one side with Hutchinson and says, try to run out that side. Good luck, right? And then the other side has Dax Hill on it, and that's the side that is going to have all the space, and he's able to take down the whatever the slot receiver is doing, he can control that. So it really condenses. It's similar but not the same as the 2016 defense where Peppers would set the edge and then the defensive tackles would just chew him up. We have one extra guy in the line, and as long as those guys are doing their jobs, it's really hard to get anything on Michigan. But there were a lot of yards there if they could break through that, and it's an interesting gamble. But I thought it was a great gamble for Wisconsin because of the way Wisconsin just wants to run gap attacks. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be very translatable to Nebraska and other spread teams on the schedule.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and talk a little hockey.
This is Matt Demrest, the owner of Homeshore Lending. We're a local mortgage company here to help you purchase with confidence and refinance with ease. People don't get mortgages very often, so it can be confusing. We'll break down every single line item so that it all makes sense. And at the end of the day, if we're not giving you the best deal, we'll tell you to go with the other company. We're here to offer our simple mortgage guidance.
This is Seth Fisher from MGoBlog. Over the years, we've sent dozens of readers to use Homeshore Lending, and every review that's come back has been raving. I myself used them to refinance after doing our original loan through our bank. I was amazed how much smoother the process was for our complicated loan. Brian used them, you should use them too.
Finding out whether it makes sense or not to refinance or getting pre-approved to buy a new home is easy. Head over to homeshorelending.com, that's HOMESURE, lending.com/MGoBlog to find out more. Or call us at 734-531-9950. That's 734-531-9950. I've got two of my favorite people here with me, kind of an annual tradition, Cooper and Colby. Cooper, how old are you?
11.
Colby, how about you?
9.
Can I get a Go Blue?
Go Blue!
NMLS number 11611358, Equal Housing Lender.
If you want to see where our post-game podcast happens, or if you need a spot to land in Ann Arbor, check out 4M, Prentice Partners' beautiful brand new flagship property at 830 Henry Street in Lower Burns Park and across the bridge from the Big House. Their 11 spacious 6-bedroom, 6-bath suites feature state-of-the-art digital capabilities and are laid out for comfortable, efficient collaboration. You can also rent a 4M unit for shorter stays, say if you want to come to town for a football weekend. I want to add myself that they're also taking over Lucky's. We're really excited about their plans for that space. So if you're by the stadium, swing by 830 Henry or visit Prentice4M.com.
It's painless. It's online. It's group ordering made easy for your next custom printed apparel order. Pogo from Underground Printing will save you time and hassle, whether you're selling shirts for a fundraiser, organizing a large event, or trying to collect sizes and payment for a family reunion. UGP is here to help. Save time and hassle every step of the way with our easy-to-use site. No more guessing what to order, chasing down people to pay, or wasting time trying to sort out the order. We'll set it up and you can just sit back and relax. We can even take care of individual shipping. To learn more about Pogo, visit us at any of our convenient locations or at pogo.undergroundshirts.com.
Hey, so I have, insurance and stuff, but I don't really, know what's going on with it.
Yeah, your coverage probably sucks, and you're paying way too much for it. And I know this because I had a guy, his name's Phil Klein. He's actually a Michigan alum and wrestled for Michigan. He looked at my insurance, and he was like, yeah, your coverage sucks, and you're paying a lot more than you need to for it.
I also, I hesitate to even mention this, but I do have my insurance from a company that advertises during college football games. Well, and I wish that was not the case.
Well, why don't you just get it from a cool guy who actually reads MGoBlog?
Well, how would I do that? They have a website?
They have one of those too. It's philkleininsurance.com. Can you remember the name Phil Klein?
Sure.
Can you remember insurance?
Yes.
Okay. Use those two together and you will save money on your insurance and you will actually get better coverage on your home and your auto, and they do life too.
All right. So you're telling me if I Google Phil Klein Insurance, this website will come up?
Yes.
Wonders never cease.
I've been run dry. Is there nothing left to say? Am I wasting time in exactly my own way? The joint runs far and wide, correct but qualified. By truth I know what's mine, and I'll never live for you. Who's to tell me what to say or do? I stopped looking for direction, bid you all adieu. This isn't who I am, and this shiftless Berkshire way. Heard of good fortune when you undertake a change. Drink, smoke, blow it off like my old boy does. Turn my back again to remember who I was. Didn't finish first, at least I'm up to par. Didn't finish last, it was a tie to the bar.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 7.5. We welcome in Nate Wells, a man about town, knows a lot of things about college hockey. And so I thought I would let Alex drive this segment.
Yeah. Obviously, Michigan starts their season tonight against Lake State. Nate, what's your general sense just of Michigan as an outside observer? Obviously, we cover the team and scrutinize and watch all the games, but as sort of an independent viewer of Michigan, how do you break down the team entering this season?
Up, we lose you? Oh. Hang on a second. We got a looks like
you lost.
Oh, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right,
yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was just asking you to size up Michigan as you see it right now.
Oh, I think personally Michigan is, for better or worse, the story of college hockey right now. No one has a higher ceiling. I think there are teams that probably have higher floors. Just bringing it in the players first off, getting back both Power and Beniers, something that college hockey hasn't had a number 1 or number 2 pick playing in about over a decade or so. So I mean that's big news on its own. You have 4 of the 5 draft picks from this recent draft, and the way that Mel Pearson's trying to do things is very unique. It's going to be very unique. If he can pull it off, it goes against what the college hockey world's been able to do, where normally you're trying to get a mix of talent and experience to come through and win a championship, and that's not something that Mel Pearson has, where it's talented players and some of the most talented players in college hockey, just in general, some of the most talented players outside the NHL in general. And I think for better or worse, it's going to be really interesting to see if that approach works. If it does, it says a lot about Michigan and the way they're doing it. And if it doesn't, it speaks to just the age and the experience of college hockey.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a healthy skepticism among the college hockey establishment that you may well be included in terms of how well Michigan's going to do, because we have seen teams in the past load up on talent and come up short. But, this is a different paradigm, right, in terms of the level of talent on this team compared to a BU of years past or Wisconsin under Granado. How much of a difference do you think that will make in terms of just having such an overload in high quality talent on the roster?
I think the two things that make it a big difference are going to be, one, that you have players who are coming back for their sophomore year. You're going to try to see a step up from a Kent Johnson, Borlo, Briss, and just these guys who you see with these top talents that it takes an adjustment to college hockey. And I think that is also one of the things that goes to just how good Owen Power and Matty Beniers were last season, where they're coming in being in their NHL draft year and they're able to make an impact right away. Most players do not have that impact right away. And so Michigan's going to have that. I think that will help them very much. And it will also help is the fact that they have I think it's just the fact that you have that high end talent. Because normally when we're talking about the BUs or Wisconsin, they have players who are first round talents, but they're not a top 5, a top 10 pick. And Michigan has that. So I think that will make a difference. And the team that I would probably compare Michigan to this year is maybe even last year's Boston College, where they brought back several high-end players who were drafted who were sophomores, who a couple of years before that were drafted in about the top 13 or so. And for most of the season, they were a top 5 team. They were probably the cream of the crop in Hockey East. They weren't able to put things together. They kind of faded down the stretch and lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament and the Hockey East tournament. But I think that's kind of a fair comparison to kind of make for Michigan. With the Wolverines, it's not where they are right now. They have a favorable schedule, playing a Lake Superior State team, at least tonight, where they're trying to put things together to get some good tests with UMD in the icebreaker. Minnesota State's number 1 in the nation. They're in the icebreaker next week. And they play a Western Michigan team. That should be a good one. But I think you're going to figure out a little bit more about Michigan this next few weeks, but it's not about where the Wolverines are in October. It's going to be about how they can put things together and where they are in February and March.
Yeah, and looking at the Big Ten, I mean, most people, myself included, would call it a two-horse race between Michigan and Minnesota. You obviously know Minnesota a little bit better than I do, but what's the sense in Gopherland right now on the season expectations?
Expectations are fairly high. It's been good to see Bob Motzko bring Minnesota back to just having a little bit more. Again, we're talking about teams who are maybe bringing a little bit more age and mixing that age and talent. Minnesota's been one of them, where the players who about 2-3 years ago were the youngest team in the nation and thrown into just these tough spots. They lost a lot of games after leading after 2, and they kind of needed to find and figure out how to win hockey games. These players are now seniors and upperclassmen and able to just lead in that way. And then they're met with a freshman class that I think, I'll take it away, Michigan in pretty much any other year would be a top end class, where they have a first round pick in Chas Lucius. You have 2 second-round picks up at forwards with Matt Nyes and Tristan Brose. And then even they're bringing in a few older guys who are draft picks who spent the year or two in juniors. And of course, they have someone Michigan knows very well, Jack LaFontaine, in goal, bringing him back for his 5th season. He's not even
our most recent backup quarterback that we're going to see again. Or recent
that's true.
But I mean, we're going through them, so I mean, we're not sad with Portillo, but that's it's a little weird to see LaFontaine. I mean, he was not nearly that good for us, but he was fantastic for Minnesota last year.
Yeah, no, he was someone who I think maybe just been thrown into a role a little early. Pretty much playing in a 3 goalie platoon is a tough thing to do and trying to find time. And yeah, he found himself in juniors, and he's this is the first time that he's been the number 1 goalie. Like, he won the job last year, and he's coming in as the number 1 goalie. The previous one, from Minnesota, the other goalie transferred to Wisconsin and now is there. So,
yeah.
Which
where's Wisconsin's goalie? I mean, is like LSSU going to have one too?
Big Ten, but...
Yeah. Outside of Michigan and Minnesota, who do you see anyone else in this conference that is interesting? I mean, I think Notre Dame has a shot to make the tournament. I don't understand Wisconsin as a top 20 team personally. And outside of that, I think the conference drops off pretty quickly. I don't know if you agree with that assessment or see something that I'm not with this 7 team league.
The couple questions I think I'd have with the conference are, how close can Notre Dame be to the Minnesota-Michigan tier? Is there a sizable step, or can they kind of bridge the gap? The Fighting Irish, they lose Alex Steves, who was their top scorer last year, but they bring in Jack Adams, who this is his 3rd school, but he's a talented scorer. And I think they bring in probably one of the more underrated transfer portal picks in Mac Elijah, who was Cornell's goalie a couple of seasons ago, and was one of the top goalies in the country, and helped the Big Red they were when the season shut down 2 years ago, they were the number 1 team in the nation. And he's a big reason why. You take that and you put that in Jeff Jackson's style, and I think that's a recipe for success. So if Notre Dame kind of can make it a 3-team race, I wouldn't be shocked. Wisconsin is going to be I think this year's team might be a little bit of an indictment on Tony Granato's coaching. Obviously it's going to be tough losing Dylan Holloway, Cole Caulfield, and just the offense and in general there. Penn State's a little bit of a wild card. I don't think we really ever saw them fully last year. They're a really young team, and it's tough. It's tough to kind of figure things out in the pandemic. And then they took the month of February off pretty much through COVID protocols. But there's times when there were times during that second half where you kind of thought that maybe they're putting things together. So I'm curious to see how they are as well.
I want them to stay this team that just scores a ton and gets scored on a ton. There should be a team that's, winning or losing 9-5 every single game. And it's fun. I want to watch Penn State games when they're on.
Yeah, I mean they definitely play quite the breakneck style. And then looking nationally, Michigan brings UMass to Yost in January. The potential of playing Minnesota State in the Icebreaker tournament. Looking at those options, who do you think is the toughest team on the schedule for Michigan?
Did we just lose him? I think he just dropped out. Yep. Not us. I think it's his internet problem, but
unfortunate. That's I mean, it's gonna be Minnesota. All due respect to Minnesota State, you're gonna get one game against them, and you get 4 against Minnesota, and 2 of those are at their rink, which is Olympic size. Those games, I always look forward to those games every year. The games in Minnesota, and it's gonna blow my mind this year. It is gonna be amazing. Because you give that much talent that much space, and you're going to get some fireworks. So it's going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah,
do we know anything about Lake State tonight?
Yeah, they made the tourney last year for the first time since they won the national title under Jeff Jackson almost 25 years ago, or more than 25 years ago. So it was really a great year for them. Their program finally got back, but then everybody left. So they're down most of those pieces. I do not think they are a particularly great team. So Michigan should come out of the weekend 2-0, but it's hockey.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing to look for will be consistency from night to night. It's always been my contention that last year was just sort of fluky, and that hockey teams that out-Corsi their opponent as badly as Michigan out-Corsied their opponents should probably be better than 15-10. And if that doesn't happen this year, everybody's going to blame me. I know how this works. So, it's going to be it's a little nerve-wracking because they just torched Bowling Green, and now it's like, all right, well, is this going to be something they do every night?
I mean,
I kind of think maybe, but who knows?
I mean, I'm worried about being college hockey's bad guy. It's like everyone's going to get up. Like, everyone knows that they're going to be playing against, the entire NHL draft, and it's going to be like, okay, here we get their best shot, and everyone's going to be really happy when we lose.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Yep.
But we'll see starting tonight, everybody.
Boris is a mayor and a land surveyor with plans of his own. He hates a Ruska, he hates a vodka bandit from his home. He hates a Ruska, vodka. He never drank a single drop. He hates a Ruska, vodka. This poison is